Vairagyam, detachment, jnanam, knowledge, cha, and yat, that, that which I become of translation of full was divine to the Vicharana with the Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, the translation. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Those who consider devotional service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to be something like material emotional affairs may argue that in the revealed scriptures, sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. According to them, bhakti or the devotional service of the Lord is meant for those who cannot perform the high grade activities. Generally, it is said that the bhakti cult is meant for the Shudras, Vaishyas, and less intelligent women class. But that is not the actual fact. The bhakti cult is the topmost of all transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. It is sublime for the pure devotees who are serious about getting in contact with the Supreme Lord, and it is easy for the neophytes who are just on threshold of the house of bhakti. To achieve the contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is a great science, and it is open for all living beings, including the Shudras, Vaishyas, women, and even those lower than the low-born Shudras. So, what to speak of the high-class men like the qualified Brahmanas and the great self-realized kings? The other hybrid activities designated as sacrifice, charity, austerity, etc., are all corollary factors following the pure and scientific bhakti cult. The principles of knowledge and detachment are two important factors of the path of transcendental realization. The whole spiritual process leads to perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual. And the results of such perfect knowledge are that one becomes detached from material affection and becomes attached to spiritual activities. Becoming detached from material things does not mean becoming inert altogether, as men with a poor fund of knowledge think. Naishkarma means not undertaking activities that will produce good or bad effects. Negation does not mean negative negation of the positive. Negation of the non-essentials does not mean negation of the essential. Similarly, detachment from material forms does not mean nullifying the positive form. The bhakti cult is meant for realization of the positive form. When the positive form is realized, the negative forms are automatically eliminated. Therefore, with the development of the bhakti cult, with the application of positive service to the positive form, one naturally becomes detached from inferior things and he becomes attached to superior things. Similarly, the bhakti cult, being the supermost occupation of the living being, leads him out of material sense enjoyment. That is the sign of a pure devotee. He is not a fool, nor is he engaged in the inferior energies, nor does he have material values. This is not possible by dry reasoning. It actually happens by the grace of the Almighty. In conclusion, one who is a pure devotee has all the good qualities, namely knowledge, detachment, etc. But one who has only knowledge or detachment is not necessarily well equipped with the principles of bhakti cult. Bhakti is the supermost occupation of the human being. ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानान्यनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदामह्यं सदाशिवम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवस्य श्रीपं साग्रजातां सगणान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा श्रीशान्तापितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Vedante Namaste Saraswate Vijayate Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtadev Shasari Mahanandaya Krishna Premadaya Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Sri Namaha He Krishna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Nata Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusude Devi Pranamami Vancha Kalpa Tasya Pa Sindhu Devacha Patita Pavane Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivastava Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam Karoti Vacham Yatmatam Ham Vande Shri Guru. Hare Krishna, I'm like with all of you for discussion for the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter entitled Divinity and Divine Service, and we're discussing our next 7 today. So, this verse is the answer of Sutta Goswami to the questions that have been asked by the sages, specifically in text 11 of the first chapter. Puri, Puri Karmani, Shrotapyani Bhagashana, Ata Sadhu Atra Yat Saram, Samudritya Manishana. You think over and tell us what is the essence of all scriptures? Because there are so many Puri, there are so many scriptures, and in all these scriptures, so many activities are mentioned. And Srila Prabhupada is mentioning how these activities, Prabhupada is talking about sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. The sages had this question that Parikshit Maharaj like, would actually come in front of Shukdev Goswami, and Shukdev Goswami had given the answer. Sutta Goswami had heard all the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, Sutta Goswami, when he's sitting in front of these sages who have assembled there at Naimisharanya to perform a Asina Dirgha Satrena, they're sitting there for a long sacrifice, like a yajna sacrifice. And they found that after a long period of their effort, what happened? The result was simply their faces became blackened. And that's the result they say. Right? Our faces have become black out of the soot coming from this fire. And they realize that it's not going anywhere. We thought that we will save the population in Kali Yuga, and for their sake, we'll do some yajna. They realize that it's not helping. So they choose uh, Shaunaka Rishi as their leader. And Shaunaka Rishi and these 88,000 sages, they choose Sutta Goswami to speak, to give them the solution. So in the 11th verse, they had asked, you tell us what is the essence of all scriptures? Hmm? What is the Yad Saram Samudritya Manishaya? Hmm? So uh, that's the answer in today's verse, where Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Bhakti Yoga to the Lord Vasudeva. Right? Prayojita, if one some engages, if somebody engages in Bhakti Yoga, rendering devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, right? Who is the son of Vasudeva. That's why his name is Vasudeva. So one immediately acquires two things: costless knowledge and detachment from the world. Right? Costless knowledge and detachment from the world. Two things can be taken. Vishwanath Thakur's is typical there. So, Srila Prabhupada, in the initial part of the purport, Prabhupada was saying, generally, these sages who are sitting in front of Sutta Goswami may feel that, but there are so many, divisions, subdivisions, methods, processes that are given in the scriptures, variety of it. Why are you focusing on bhakti? And bhakti seems to be so simple, easy. I, that's the essence of all the scriptures. Because you find when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Varanasi, and as a sannyasi, he has come to Varanasi, yet he is staying with devotees and chanting and dancing with devotees. And what were the sannyasis, Prakash Anand Saraswati and others, what were they talking about? They were saying sentimental sannyasi, bhavuk, bhavuk sannyasi. What is he doing? He simply chants and dances. Oh, he should come and sit with us, discuss scriptures, right? He is a Vairagi. He should be sitting with Vairagis, and he should be sitting and discussing Jnana with us. He should be discussing these scriptures with us. So, same response was from Sarvabhaum Bhattacharya in Jagannath Puri. When Lord Chaitanya arrived there, he was chanting, dancing, and in his ecstasy, he fell on the ground in front of Jagannath while taking darshan. And uh, the the security at the Jagannath temple, they felt this is another bhavuk person, another sentimental person who has come here. And they were about to beat and throw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu out of the temple. But Sarva Bhattacharya came there and said, wait, 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 he's a sannyasi. Don't touch him. Second thing he said is, these are exalted symptoms for sure. But so his body is picked up, like as if lifeless. Like, his body is picked up, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's body is picked up and taken to Sarvam Bhattacharya's home. And there, Sarvam Bhattacharya, he takes some cotton, and he places it near the nose. Says, yes, he's alive for sure because the cotton is moving. And later, when devotees do Sankirtan, Lord Chaitanya comes to external consciousness. And Sarvam Bhattacharya already mentioned to him, you are a young sannyasi. Like you have taken sannyas at a very young age, yet knowledge and detachment is not there in you. So please come and sit with me. Every day I will teach you from Vedanta Sutras. I'll speak, I'll expound on it. And once you have sufficiently heard from me, then you will have detachment to maintain your sannyas order. What is this chanting and dancing you're doing? So traditionally, people feel bhakti is a very simple process, easy process. Like anybody can do it. Like, so that means it is not very high. Other things are important. So as soon as Sutta Goswami has said Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha, the sages may say, oh, what are you trying to tell us? Not austerity, not knowledge. So he's saying when you engage in bhakti to Lord Vasudev, to Lord Krishna, Janayati, automatically knowledge and detachment will be produced. You don't have to separately endeavor for it. And how much time will it take? Ashu, very quickly it will happen. And Srila Prabhupada would show his disciples as example to Indians who would think, what is bhakti? So anybody can. And Prabhupada said, look at them. They, they did not have any knowledge about Krishna. Right? They did not have any knowledge of scriptures. Right? But just simply by chanting and dancing and the bhakti process that I've given, look at them today. Right? The detachment. The knowledge is supposed to produce detachment. And as soon as knowledge is there, right, then detachment will come from this world. One will understand what this world is and what is the result of investing any energy in this world. How this world is temporary and miserable place. So when knowledge awakens, detachment is a concomitant factor. Right? So Srila Prabhupada, right? So, but yet in India, people would still, find faults with Prabhupada disciples in those days, right? So when Prabhupada in Jaipur, somebody said, "What is this, Swamiji? Your disciples, when they pronounce the Sanskrit verses behind you, their pronunciation is not proper." Prabhupada said, "Yes, their pronunciation may not be proper, but their renunciation is perfect. They are renounced. They've given up everything, all their bad habits, all their attachments, and they're simply serving Guru's instruction. They're simply serving Krishna's instructions. Right? So, Srila Prabhupada focuses on these two things. We'll also try whatever time we have with this person. So, Vishwanath Thakur, he says for this verse, especially, he says, he gives another meaning to it. He says, um, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. He connects it with the large course. He says how bhakti will produce the satisfaction to the mind. Yenatma Supasidati. He says this satisfaction of the mind is filled with knowledge and experience of the form, qualities, and sweetness of the Lord, which cause complete disgust with all inferior objects. So he connects to the previous verse. Uh, So, Yojitaha, he says, and pra, for prakarshena, right? Which means bhakti yoga prayojitaha. So that he says he takes that word pro there, and he says, which means bhakti which was done in dasya, sakhya, vatsalya, and madhurya, and with those emotions, with those loving emotions. When one comes to that level of bhakti, right, janayati ashu vairagya jnanam jayat ahaitukam. Hmm. So, prayojita, he also says when bhakti yoga is made the goal of life, then these akshu, janayati ashu. So, every spiritual path, mhm, you know, it tries to solve two fundamental problems. Which are the two fundamental problems with the conditioned souls? One is ignorance, and second is attachment. Mhm. We find in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna displays this ignorance and material attachment. Right? So, why do people suffer? Like people suffer because they do not know what they are, right? And so that's knowledge part, and then they become attached to the temporary things and the temporary world. So, traditionally, what does spirituality mean? Traditionally, spirituality means you first gain knowledge, then you develop attachment, and then you realize God. Right? But Srimad Bhagavatam is saying no. Sutta Goswami is saying no. With bhakti, that's not the way. You do not have to separately endeavor to develop knowledge, or you do not have to take separate seminars for cultivating detachment. You simply engage in bhakti. So, most systems, spiritual systems will say knowledge first, then knowledge will produce detachment, and then you realize God. But what is Bhagavatam saying? If you engage in bhakti, bhakti itself will produce knowledge plus detachment plus God realization. Simply engage in bhakti, rest everything else will be awarded. Right? So I'm specifically using the word not given. These are awarded by Krishna. Just like the you know the army in the army in the defense, and so many medals are awarded. Right? But why am I using this word awarded? Because but if some mistakes are done, if some blunders happen, those awards are taken away also. Covered also. In Bhakti, they get covered once and Krishna can cover them. But yes, these are awarded by Krishna. So, so Bhakti is not the product of knowledge. Bhakti is not produced out of detachment. Right? Knowledge is the byproduct of detachment is the byproduct of bhakti. Right? So the example is given of that of the sun. Hmm? When the sun rises, what does the sun rise for? What's the purpose? Does the sun rise for uh, making the darkness disappear? No. Sun and the darkness, there's no animosity like that. But just simply appear into the sun and the darkness disappears. And the second thing that happens is objects become visible. Right? So the sun is not endeavoring for the sun, it's not the sun does not separately remove darkness. Similarly, bhakti, as soon as bhakti, you know, appears in the heart, bhakti removes ignorance. Right? That is the knowledge part. Bhakti reveals reality, and that means bhakti produces detachment also. Right? So the other processes, Srila Prabhupada says in one lecture, they will talk, especially the Jnana Marg, will talk about 90, 90, 90. Na iti, na iti, na iti. This is not spiritual, this is not material, this is material, this is material. And Sankhya is questioning. Right? But what happens? 90, 90, 90. But then how long can you say no, 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 no? Right? There's a limit, but there's nothing positive. The Prabhupada said the power of bhakti is it is compared to the fire of digestion in the body. Like, it's not any normal fire. Any normal fire will burn away everything. सब कुछ जला देगी. But what does the fire, the digestive fire do? The fire, this fire destroys the bad portion of the food, right? And from the good portion, it nourishes the body. So bhakti, right? Bhakti, the fire of bhakti does not indiscriminately burn away everything, right? And for the digestive fire, what is your endeavor? Nothing, right? Without personal endeavor, the digestive fire does its job, does its work. Hmm? So we don't even, understand or get to know how the food is getting digested. And similarly, bhakti liberates a person without even the knowledge of that person. Simply engaging in bhakti, right? So another third thing is just as digestive fire starts working the moment you eat food, right? Similarly, he says, Rupa Goswami says, Kleshagni, right, starts as soon as you start sadhana bhakti under the guidance of Guru. You will experience Kleshagni. Then, then what do you compare jnana to? He said, jnana is compared to a forest fire. There's a fire in the forest also. And what does the fire do? Forest fire burns the bamboo and seems like the entire, the forest is now barren, nothing there, but the roots still remain. So if somebody focuses on cultivating knowledge, jnana, I will study scriptures, I'll cultivate knowledge. Yes, there will be effect. Knowledge will also affect, but the tendency that those roots will still remain. Right? And so bhakti is compared to the fire in the belly, the fire of digestion. But jnana alone, right, when one tries to cultivate only knowledge, that is compared to the forest part. Right? So Srila Prabhupada said that's why better to take directly to the process of bhakti. Mhm. So uh, how does bhakti produce knowledge? Jnanam chaya ahentukam. In less time. Vishwanath Thakur gives one more thing. He says, Janayati Ashu Vairagyam. Very quickly, detachment will come. And he says, Jnanam chayat ahentukam. What is ahentuka jnana means? He says, Bhakti performed under the rasa bhakti, under the four rasas. He says, ahetukam jnana means knowledge without any hetu. What is the hetu of a person on the path of knowledge? It is liberation. Even liberation one will derive. I don't want liberation. I'm satisfied with bhakti. That is ahetuki jnana. Very good. Okay. So, what is mean knowledge without any separate endeavor? Right? It means you won't need to go through university degrees and some scholarship. Hmm? Simply Krishna awards the realizations. Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam Yajnatva Mokshase Ashubha. So Krishna is also saying Tesham Satata Yuktanam Ajitam Priti Purvakam. If you perform bhajan, Priti Purvakam bhajan. 10.10 Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna is saying Dadami. I award, I give, I personally give intelligence to my devotees. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Yenama Upaya Ite. Krishna also says in the 15th chapter, 15th verse, uh, that remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness comes from me. Mattah Smritir Jnanam Apohanam. Krishna wants. Another place, 55th verse in the 18th chapter, Krishna says, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyaschatsmitatattvatah tato mam tattvato jnatva vishate tat anantaram. Only by unalloyed devotional service can you understand me. Right? But what do people think? Still, there is such misunderstanding about bhakti. Very simple, very easy. How will it happen? Right? So, one time there was a professor, and this professor was supposed to cross the river. He called out for a boat, right? And the boatman was boatman brought the boat and the professor sat in the boat. While they were in the middle of the river, the the professor, asked the boatman, "So, did you go to school?" "No, sir, I did not." "So 25% of your life is wasted." "Did you go to college?" "I did go to school. What college?" "And 50% of your life is wasted." "Do you know what is science?" "So I don't know." So he said, "Oh, 75% of your life is waste." Right? And at that time, heavy rains and storm came, right? And the boat was rocking. And the boatman asked the professor, "Do you know swimming?" He said, "No." They said, "100% of your life is waste." Correct. So what is the lesson? No, simply theoretical knowledge. Jnana, jnana, jnana. They focus so much on it, but it cannot take you to perfection of prema. It can maximum take you to liberation. And that also the gopis say, vimukta manias. They think that we have become liberated simply by cultivation of knowledge. But bhakti gives you realized knowledge. Right? Okay, what about the detachment part? Right? Uh, for detachment, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur Prabhupada, he would give a story. He would say, uh, in a village, a family was supposed to go to another village at a far distance to attend a marriage ceremony, to attend a marriage. And to reach that village, they were supposed they needed to take a boat, cross the river, and go to the other side. Right? Then, when they sat in the boat, they told the boatman, "Please row the boat." Uh, and it was going to take like whole night for them to cover the to cut to cover the distance in the river, and then they reach to the other village the next morning. So they all sat. By the evening, the boatman was ready, and they began their journey. Right? And very soon they slept off. And by the morning when they got up, they were still on this side only. They asked the boatman, "What happened? Did you do your job? We were sleeping all night. Why are we still on this side? Why are we not on the other side?" The boatman said, "Look at me, I'm sweating. Yet the whole night I have been working. Right? Whole night I'm doing my job. Then why did the boat not move?" "Because the anchor was still on." He forgot to remove the anchor. Like similarly, our anchor in the material world is our desire for material happiness. Bhaksan Thakur would say this: unless there is detachment, right? With our desires for material happiness, we want to worship God, go to the temple, like offer some respect, and all our spirituality is God, help me maintain my attachments, right? Right? But if our goal is only material happiness, right, then Bhaksan Thakur would say it's like the anchor is still on, then we cannot progress on the spiritual path. Hmm? So Srila Prabhupada says, what is the proof that we have attachment for sense gratification? He says, we can it is difficult to see for this person, this practitioner, how everything apart from Krishna is asam, still running behind the asam of this world, temporary things of this world. Right? So to the degree we are impressed, we are fascinated by this material civilization, the advancement of material civilization. To that degree, we cannot progress ahead on the spiritual path. Hmm? So Janayaki Ashu Vairagya, very quickly it produces detachment. Right? So bhakti does not force detachment. Then how does bhakti produce detachment very quickly? How is Sutta Goswami so confident? Because bhakti offers you higher taste. When you have the higher taste, then the lower taste can be given up. And Srila Prabhupada's famous example was, if somebody gives you halwa to eat, then why would anybody want to eat stool? Anybody will give up stool. See, stool I don't want to eat. I have nice halwa to eat. So param drishva nivartate. Right? So, a 5-year-old may be interested in toys, but at 25, one will naturally lose interest in toys. Nobody will even turn back. Right? Nobody forced, give up your toys. All that happened was a higher interest appeared. Right? Similarly, Krishna consciousness, what does it do? It gives us the higher taste. Right? Another example that is given is like when someone falls deeply in love, old attractions, oh, it lose power. Priorities change, right? And when sacrifice becomes natural, right? Similarly, love for Krishna creates this natural renunciation. Uh, when Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest, his desire was that I should get a kingdom greater than even Brahma. Right? But when he had darshan of the Lord, right, he said, Kachan Vichinvan Apidivya Ratnam Swami Kritartho Asmi Param Nayachi. I do not desire any blessings from you now. I had come here searching for broken pieces of glass, and you have offered me in your darshan, your bhakti is like that rare diamond. Hmm. So Rupa Goswami also explains what is dry renunciation. Right? Right? There's a difference between dry renunciation and bhakti renunciation. What does dry renunciation means? I hate the world. I hate this world. What is the result of it? You know, frustration, depression, and I, even pride may come. See, I am detached, I am renounced, and eventually one will fall down. But what is bhakti renunciation? Bhakti renunciation, I have found Krishna. And when you have found Krishna, what is the result? One will be happy, stable. The detachment becomes very natural. Hmm. So, Sri Prabhupada, when he came to New York, who were his first audience? The first amongst his audience were drug addicts, meat eaters, alcoholics, hippies, right? But we never find that Prabhupada gave seminars to them on, how to give up drugs, how to become detached, right? How to practice renunciation, right? What did Prabhupada teach them? Simply chant, dance, hear Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, take prasadam, do some seva for Krishna. And within months, right, they gave up LSD, they gave up intoxication, they gave up illicit sex, speed eating, gambling, and Prabhupada would claim, I made hippies into happy. So this verse, if anybody says, very difficult to believe that just by practicing bhakti, Janayati, Ashu Vairagyan Jnanam Chayat Ahedugam. Prabhupada did it. Right? And if you read this book, Science of Self-Realization, like there's a Captain Mosey, right? He's talking to Srila Prabhupada. There's another interview where Chicago Police Department one representative is talking to Prabhupada and he's saying, Swamiji, what miracle you have done. We have millions and millions of dollars, we are spending, we have budget for it to to turn these hippies into normal people. Right? But we were unsuccessful. So much money is being spent. What magic did you do? Right? When I see your devotees, they have become so once again they have become sane. Actually, Prabhupada would say, I have not given anything to them but chanting and dancing and prasad. And Prabhupada, even to this police department representative in Chicago, Prabhupada says, all your budget you should give to me. Prabhupada says, what will you do? I'll conduct festivals, Prabhupada says, where simply a chanting of holy name right, is and prasadam gets distributed. The whole population will change, Prabhupada says. Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. One time when businessman came to Srila Prabhupada, right, and he said, I'm so frustrated with all this business. Right? So much tension, so much worry. Right? I want to renounce everything. Prabhupada said, why do you want to renounce? Give it to me. What kind of renunciation is this? Prabhupada said, better, I know what to do with it. Engage it in Krishna's service. So rather than Falgu Vairagya, dry renunciation, false renunciation, Srila Prabhupada or Bhakti gives us, Yukta Vairagya, the proper renunciation, how everything belongs to Krishna and how everything can be engaged in the service of Krishna. Hmm. So, uh, another form of Vairagya is Markata Vairagya, the monkey renunciation. So, monkey also lives naked, owns no house, no wealth, lives in the forest, eats only fruits, right? And appears like a great renunciant. But internally, the monkey is known for restlessness. Monkey is lusty, monkey is possessive, right? So the Acharya said this external renunciation, you know, this dry renunciation, right, is no good, is useless. Real renunciation, renunciation, pure knowledge is awarded and by the practice of bhakti. And how quickly, very soon. you know. So, uh, bhakti par isha anubhav virakti anyatra cha. This 11th canto verse talks about how when one practices bhakti, virakti is a byproduct of it. The example is given just as if a hungry man eats food, right? Let's say the hungry man, if you offer food, and if the hungry man says, how do I know that this food will work? Right? As soon as one eats, the hunger disappears, the strength returns, and the satisfaction also appears. All three occur simultaneously. Knowledge develops and detachment develops simultaneously. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran ki Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
I just got 200.
Questions? अभी तक चालू नहीं टाइम नहीं मेरा तो लिंक अच्छा लिंक